Hello folks and welcome. Pop OS. I have a video that's requested by a new user to give some additional information about a video I made the other day in regards to automatic backup and copies using some other ways of doing it. So taking that under advisement, I am basically going to make a video about USB devices and using that same tool to sync up files and folders to it. Whether you use a USB stick or a USB hard drive. And I'll talk about actually different ways to format those things too, whether it's a stick or a thumb drive or a portable USB hard drive. So in either case, folks, welcome. None of my videos are under 2 minutes on my new YouTube channel, but they all have chapters and timelines. You can hit stop on your player to see that. And you can also look at the gearbox on your video players and also change the resolution in case you need to do that. In either case, folks, I do encourage that you subscribe. It's the easiest way to watch my videos in multiple sessions, in other words, multiple days possibly. And I do encourage that you read my About section, especially the statement where I put in there, Linux is for every age. Also, check out my Community tab. In either case, I have lots of videos for you folks. Now, I will say welcome, and we're going to talk about Pop OS today. So that's the current version, Pop OS 2204 LTS's long-term support. I'm going to close that. So as of March 22nd, 2023, this is current. Now I'm going to open up my file manager. My user for today is Mary. Mary has a lot of stuff. She has personal documents. She also has possibly some work stuff over here. These are fictitious documents nonetheless, but they're documents or files and folders. She also has some music stuff, and we have also possibly some digital photos and wallpapers. I'm resizing those on the fly. If you haven't seen my video on the file manager, how to do this kind of stuff, you may want to take a look at that. All right, so I'm going to resize these back up, so make this a little bit larger for you. Again, I'm filming in 4K today with 200% scaling, but more importantly, we're going to talk about putting stuff on backup devices, such as USB hard drives and USB sticks. I'll be doing both of these today, and I'm going to be showing you this completely from scratch, showing you how to create simple script files for automation. 2 USB devices. Now you can format these drives or USB sticks a lot of different ways. So I'm going to click the format command for a second. So this opens up a tool, and I'm going to hit cancel for a second, that is called GNOME Disk Utility. You can format these things a lot of different ways. Okay, so this is formatted with FAT32, File Allocation Table 32. Now, when you format your USB devices, either sticks or hard drives, doesn't matter, when you do it with FAT32, they're compatible with not only Linux, but also Microsoft Windows and Macs, if you're sharing files, for instance. If you are formatting these with extension 4 or some other Linux partition, you may have to deal with permissions. Just wanted to point that out. But more importantly, if you format that with extension 4, you're not going to be able to share that with your Microsoft Windows or Macs. So I'm using FAT32 for the example for today. So far, so good? All right. The drive is currently empty, but it is a fairly decent size one. So it's 240 gig. Basically, this drive is connected to a USB cable. It is USB 3. And I bought that $12 enclosure, I think, on Amazon. It's not too bad. It came with a cable, and it's got a nice little blue light on it, and it flashes when the drive is being accessed. So I just threw in my own hard drive. You can use spinning hard drives or solid state drives, whatever drives you have available. Or you can even purchase your own backup drive, complete with enclosures. They're a little bit more expensive. So I have a couple of different ways to put these things on this USB backup drive, right? I could right-click on these things and hit copy and then hit paste. I can do multiple folders at the same time. I can even use 2 windows and drag them across. But in either case, when you do that, whenever you change a file in here, I don't care which folder you're dealing with, you normally are copying the whole folder back into that using the copy and paste method, or Control-C in this case. All right. How would you like a method where if a file changes in any of these folders, I'll just use Mary's stuff, for instance, and you add something in here. You add something in here. So all of these are test folders that I'm going to actually get rid of a couple of these things. But anyways, more importantly, whenever you are changing things in here, you're adding a folder or a file. Wouldn't it be easier to have a tool that will only take the changed stuff in that folder and then put it on that backup device? Well, then we're talking about automated scripts. And I'm going to show you how to write one from scratch, and it's very simple, actually. Hopefully it's simple. I'm going to try to explain it to you in a real simple way. So in my document folder, I made a folder called My Scripts. You can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to hit star. The reason I'm doing that is because I want a shortcut to it. So anything you put in your stars is a shortcut. So far, so good. It's just an easier way for me to get a hold of this folder. So what is in this My Scripts folder? Well, I have currently 5 scripts in here. I'll talk about this first one, but I'm going to first run it for you, and then I'll explain it. So it's currently empty, right? There's nothing in there. So I'm going to right-click and run that thing. You'll see a box pop open and close. All it was doing was syncing up that folder and all the subfolders that went with it. So let's go look at that script for a second. You'll see that it's very simple. I can open it with a text editor or just double click on it. It's just 2 lines. And let me explain those 2 lines for you. And then I'll actually show you how you can create these things yourself in a text editor. This happens to be gedit. There are many text editors out there. You just don't want to create these things using a word processor. So the first line has to be this one. I call this the bin bash statement. You can just take a look at that and copy that on a piece of paper or do a screenshot if you prefer. Or better yet, subscribe. So a born again shell statement there is what line 1 needs to be at. And that starts my script to allow this thing to work. So the next line down is, what is rsync? Rsync is a remote sync. A lot of people use rsync to actually sync up information or folders and files from one computer to another. I'm using it for the purposes of syncing my personal folders, in this case Mary's work stuff, to that USB device. So let me break the command down for you. And I do recommend that you at least look at the rsync command on the internet yourself. I have rsync space -a. So -a is an option. Some people call them switches, or options nonetheless. And depending on what you put in there, you could put, you'll see in one of my scripts, it'll have an AV instead of -a on it. I'll tell you what that means in a minute, but I'm going to continue. So it's rsync space -a. That's the first line. Then there's a space with a tilde on it. What is a tilde? Well, if you never have used the tilde, take a look at your keyboard next to the 1 key on the top row to the left. You'll have this weird looking squiggly thing. If you were to open up a standard text editor, and I'll just do that in here, and I'm going to press that key. That's a tilde. All I'm doing is hitting shift on that key. So far, so good? Okay. What does that tilde represent? That's your home folder, in this case, Mary's home folder. Some people call, in Linux, directories. We're going to call it folder in this video. So that's my Mary's home folder and Mary's work stuff. So let's open that location right now. It's this one right here. So let me put this right next to it. So basically it's representing this folder here is what that command is. This is my source of what rsync is going to do. It's going to sync that folder to whatever I send it to. In this case, it's this device right here. I'm pointing at it. You see that black box? Maybe you have a lighter color theme, whatever theme you're using. It says Media Mary USB Backup. Again, Media would be the USB device. Mary is my current logged in user. USB Backup is the name of the device. That's exactly what this means right here. It's that simple. The only thing you've got to remember is add that space in there. If you do this, your script will not work. So put a space back in there and take a look at this. So just type in what that says. All right, so that's all that script does. I'm gonna hit close without saving because I added that extra tilde in there. I think there's a change. So let me go back to the scripts. So you already saw that one. Now I'm gonna make this a little bit interesting for you. We're gonna sync up several folders at the same time. So you agree the drive is empty, right? Okay. Go back into my scripts. I'm going to talk about this one. It's just a name, as one would say, Mary's Backup. We can call this whatever I want. And let's take a look at these. Now this is a little different. It has more lines in it, but it still starts with the bin bash statement. And then I have a V in there instead of an A. I have -AV. What that is going to do is when this box opens, this terminal box, it will display the files that it's copying. This one did not do that. So let me give you that example one more time. So this is currently empty. I'm going to rerun that same script over here. And before I do that, I wanted to let you see it has the -A on it. What you're going to see is just this terminal box pop up and close almost. I think this will be fairly quick. But you see no files in there, in other words. You got that so far? Okay. Let me delete that. Go back up here. I don't need that. And Mary's Backup. So the only difference between these two script files, I'll just compare the two for a second, is it has the AV on it and Mary's stuff has the -A on it. That's the only difference. So far so good? Okay. Now, what the V is going to do is display those files as I'm copying. So this rsync statement is going to be syncing up documents, music, downloads, pictures, and videos all in sequential order. And more importantly, it's going to just do all of these folders into that device, whatever device I have plugged in here, information here. So basically my USB backup. So media, Mary, USB backup is what all of these say on the end. So far so good. Now let's perform that. I'll leave the terminal box open for a second and let you see this. So it's currently copying what looks to be music at this very second. So right here you have, it's creating folders at the same time. And you'll see that the other folders will populate in here in a second. So I got some, well, how about Mary has some Beatles music. And now Mary's download folder has mouse pointer themes. And those are the themes that are being currently copied in here. Now, you could minimize this box. I don't recommend closing it though if you're doing a big sync up like this. Otherwise you terminate the process. But if you don't want to sit there and see it, you could minimize it and it'll stay down here at the bottom. And when it finishes, it'll actually close this box. But I'm going to let this thing finish so you can see it. Now it created another folder there. And it's getting pretty close. Now these are all my wallpapers or pictures. Keep in mind that Mary's wallpaper or pictures folder contains not only wallpaper but digital photos. So some of those JPEGs are not wallpapers, they're actually photos. And now it's syncing up the current video that I'm filming from. And it's finished. That was a lot of data. Now, you see this folder right here. You have test 1, 2, and 4, and test 999. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a folder to it, and I'm just going to call it, we'll just call it junk 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so basically there's a change been made. That folder right there. So in here, my music folder is currently doesn't reflect that junk folder, right? So I'm going to go up here and I have another script in here that only does music. Okay, let me open it for you, let you see it. And it has the V on it. That means that it will display the files as if I remove the V, it won't display that. It'll just open up a blank box depending on how many files it's syncing. But in this case, since it's only one folder, you'll almost see it just blink. So far, so good, right? Watch me run the script now. It's actually done. That just blinked for a second. Because the folder was already created, and only saw one difference. It compared the two and then sunk it up there. Okay, folder's right there. That should match my other to a T. So all it did was sync up this folder. It ignored everything else because it was already here. That's the beauty of using this tool. What was the other way of doing it manually? Well, I could have went over to here, copy, and paste. Now, what happens when the folder is already here when you do a paste? It's going to complain, doesn't it? It says the folder is already here. What do you want to do with it? Then you got to do the extra thought pattern. Do you want to replace it? Do you want to, you want to get rid of it? Do you want to add to it? That kind of thing. With rsync, it doesn't ask you for all that silly stuff. It just compares the two and then sends whatever, in this case, my junk folder over to that device. So there's many ways of doing this. I'm doing this on purpose because I'm forcing the system to resync these things. So here is another script for just downloads. So what does Mary have in her download folder? She has test 1 and 2 and then some mouse pointers. So going back up to the script, we see the script here. And we have the AV on. What happens when I remove the V and just save it? I'm going to run the script first. And we're doing downloads. It's going to sync this folder right here. First of all, it's going to go check the device. If it's not there, it's going to create it, providing the script is written correctly to the device. And I'll talk about that when you pop on another device in here with a different name on it. All right, so we're doing downloads to USB backup. That's the name of this particular device. Let's run it. Here's the terminal box and it just stays blank. Now, whatever you do, don't close that because it's still working in the background. I can still see my blue light special flashing on my drive and it's making copies of this right now. Keep in mind this download folder has subfolders all the way down the tree. Okay. There's a lot of subfolders in here. Okay, in either case, I'm just going to go back up the tree. It's still flashing. More importantly, it's still running. Okay, so now always just let it finish. I'm going to, do I want to dump this? Yeah, I'll just dump it. Okay, so how do we create a script? And let's say you already have a script made and you want to borrow that information to create another script. So I'm going to delete Mary's music on purpose and I'm going to borrow information from one of these scripts because I already have one of these scripts is written to back up anything to this drive here. So what do we want to use? How about Mary's stuff? We'll use that one. Now there's several ways I can copy information out of here. I can use Control A to highlight everything, or I can just drag drag information like that and then right click and copy, or use Control C. Okay, so I'm going to actually copy this, but I'm going to close the box on purpose just to let you see this and then walk over. There's another way of doing it, but walk over to Show Applications and open up a text editor. I'm just doing this manually just to let you see it, and then I'm going to right click in the screen in here and hit paste. So it copies those lines for me. Okay, it's currently, it's a little different color than the previous, but since I'm not finished yet, but I can edit stuff in here now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a script that says music on it instead of Mary's stuff. So what I'm going to do is click right behind stuff and hit the back arrow key and change that to music. This is if you're creating your own script, in other words, but you borrowed information from another script. You still need the bin bash statement. So rsync A. Do you want to use the V bit? Yeah, why not? Let's add the V to it. Let's check our spelling. We have rsync space dash AV space tilde music space media Mary USB backup. That's where we want it. Yep, we're good to go. All right, it's still untitled. Save, because we're creating a new script, but with borrowed information. So double click on where you want to save your file. I want to save mine to Mary Documents My Scripts. And I'm going to call this Mary Music. You can call it whatever you want. I'll use capitals on these. Let me erase that. Is that good? And double check my path. Mary Document Scripts. Yes, it looks good. Save. And close. All right, there's Mary's music that I just created. Now, with this one over here, I already have the third item says run as program. When I do this on this one, it doesn't have that option yet. Because this is a newly created script, you need to do one thing when you create your scripts. Properties, right-click on the file, Properties, Permissions, allow this to be executed as a program. In other words, allow this to be ran as a program. Allow executing file as a program. You need to have that option turned on. So right now this is empty. Let's go back up here to my scripts. The one I just created was this one. Right-click, now I have the option as run. And it's performing that. And also remember I turned the V on so I can see the files being copied. And it's creating that as we speak. So I could leave this alone or I can minimize this. If you want to be absolutely sure and stay away from these keys, then allow it to finish. It just did. I didn't touch anything. All I was doing was pointing at the time that it finished. But nonetheless, it's finished. Okay, all the stuff in there. And I have a lot of junk in here that I need to get rid of. I'm going to get rid of all the test folders. And this one too. So now this is back to where it was originally when I first started this mess. Okay, now I can leave this alone or I can... Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this up. I'm just going to leave that alone. I could erase this later because this is just a test drive. So I'm going to eject that and I'm going to switch this up now, folks. I'm going to actually insert a USB stick. And I'm not sure if it's formatted or not. It doesn't matter. Well, that one's called USB 1. Does it have files? No. Let's just format that for the sake of argument. And it automatically opens this box up with this highlighted. This is, again, the GNOME disk utility, and we're just going to call it the same name. Or do you want to call it something else? I'll use uppercase. USB 1, how's that? I want to use FAT, File Allocation Table, FAT32 in other words. Okay, yeah, we're going to format that. It's a USB stick. So it's now formatted with FAT32 and it's called USB 1. So far so good? Okay, it's blank. There's nothing there. What I'm going to do with my scripts though is I'm going to tailor my script for that device. So let's do Mary's stuff first. Let's open that up and double check some things. First of all, this is Mary's work stuff going to USB backup. That's not obviously this device here. This is Media Mary USB 1. So I'm going to do a little cheating. Right click, copy, click in here and paste. And take the work copy and edit that. So this time I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to change the tail end to USB 1. I'm going to keep everything the same, or I could add the V on the A down here, but in either case I'm going to hit save. Now since I made a copy of this thing, it transferred all the information over, including the bit that allows me to run this as a program. So I don't need to hit properties because it's not a newly created script. It was a copied script. That's the beauty of this. So we're going to do Mary's work stuff. Instead of calling it copy, we're going to call that USB 1. I know that's a long name. And then I'm going to run this one. Now keep in mind there's nothing on the drive. I just formatted it just now. And I get nothing because my script is written where it has the -A, which means it doesn't display the files. Nonetheless, it's finished with all my subfolders on it. So I can also do this using that other larger script. I believe this device is big enough. what did I say this was? Oh, okay, 16 gigabytes. This ought to work just fine with my other script, that big one. So let me open that up, and it's considered Mary's backup. Remember all those folders? I'm going to keep everything with the V bit on it. In other words, the option of V, meaning display. But I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy this also and paste it. So it copies the, this is a duplicate of this, but I'm going to change this up with the text editor, or you can just double click on it. Now this is a little bit more extensive, but it's not that bad. I'm going to just back this up and type in USB1. Now I'm going to also cheat in here because I don't want to type this in every single statement. So I'm going to highlight this whole thing, right click, copy, click the next line over. You can manually type this if you want. All I'm doing is highlighting, right clicking, and pasting because I'm just changing the tail end. I could do it also, like I said, with the a simple way of retyping that. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I changed devices. So now I'm going to hit save. Do I want to rename that right now? I could, but I think it's not necessary. You understand that you can rename these things. Now I'm going to run it. And now it's making copies. There's no errors here. It's sending the incremental file list, and you can start seeing building right now. And now I'll reopen that up. And you'll see the folders being created. And then you can let it finish. So the thing about creating script files, again, you're going to be using a text editor. I'm just going to let this thing run while we're talking. So you're going to use a text editor where you want to create this from scratch yourself. Just remember that bin bash statement needs to be in there first. So let me open up the scripts while it's still doing its job. And I'll use one that is currently not in use. I'll use this one. So one more recap here is you start your line with that, and it doesn't matter how many rsync statements you have. Whatever you're dealing with, you start with something like that. You can put the V on the end if you want. And again, there's other options out there. And then this is your source, and this is your destination. Keep in mind, this one happens to be my other USB backup drive. This one happens to say USB 1. It's a thumb drive. So the back end does matter regarding these scripts. Whatever you got plugged in, as far as this particular video is concerned, we're dealing with USB devices. So it would be media, your username, and whatever device name is. So in this case, Mary is our user. So it's media Mary, USB backup was the other. And the script that I just wrote to finish this, and I believe it's finished. It's still working, okay. Keep in mind it's a USB 2. It's a little slower than my regular hard drive, my regular USB connected drive. But more importantly, this is what it's doing currently right here, is this script. So it has a lot of information to transfer to that USB 1. And my original script looked like this. And all I did was make a copy of it and change the tail end. So you can see the versatility of just quickly creating scripts. Is it still working, or is it? Yeah, it's still doing its thing. Again, this is a USB 2 stick. It's a lot slower than that drive. So, but it'll finish. It's working on the last one right now. I can tell that. So now I can walk over to here and see all the folders. And I don't know how much space is left on this drive, but you get the idea though. So you can tailor these scripts to your particular device rather easily, just by making copies. You don't even need to change the name if you don't want to. But just check your scripts though. When you're creating scripts, what is the name of the device you're currently trying to transfer stuff onto? Again, you don't have to use the V part. You can use the A, and it'll just give you a blank when it's transferring information. The beauty about this, though, is let's find one that it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. All right, how about that music folder that I dumped a bunch of folder out earlier? Let's create another folder here. Done. And I have one script earlier that I wrote for just doing music folders. And that was this one, except that one is written for another drive. So what I'm going to do in this case is copy that, paste it, take the copy. Since this is only one line, I'm going to use the backup arrow key. And USB1. I'll leave the A is fine. I'll just hit save, close, and then run the copy. And it's going to copy that extra folder, this, wherever it is, this, okay, that one has a space in it, and I didn't realize I had another junk folder, but that one, that's junk 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's junk space 1, 2, 3, 4. Either way, let's see what's on the drive. I just have junk no space 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably should have used a different folder name. In either case, I'm going to sync it up. And it'll just blink. And it's done. You can see that's junk 1, 2, 3, 4 plus junk space 1, 2, 3, 4. In other words, they match. And all I did was alter that script in less than 10 seconds. All I did was copy the script and then alter the back end. Because this is a real simple script. So that's this one. And that's that one. So I have it both open on the same tabs. I'm just using tabs in here. So that says USB 1 and that one says USB backup. There's no difference in the actual contents. The only difference is the back end here. Okay, so far so clear, hopefully. Hopefully I didn't lose you folks. So anyways, you can see the benefit of using scripts to sync up to USB devices. And again, one more time on the formatting, if you decide to format these things using like extension 4 or something different, keep in mind, are you wanting to do this? Or do you want it to be compatible with another operating system? If you are wanting to share these files on a Microsoft or a Mac machine, you probably want to choose this one. When you choose extension 4 or others, you may have to deal with your permissions to have permissions to put files on these things. But more importantly, if you decided to format that USB device with extension 4, you are not going to be able to stick it into a Microsoft machine or a Mac to view those files. That's the biggest key that I'm trying to drive at. Okay, now I'm going to close all that stuff down. And hopefully you have subscribed. I have lots of other videos for you. Thank you for watching, folks.